Is there a caller?
Yes. Yes.
Who's there?
Good afternoon, Basil. This is Reddy. How are you?
Oh, great. You're calling back. Very good. Thanks. Already, folks had called yesterday. We were talking about options. So this is, overnight, I thought there are two questions that are really important that I needed to ask you. One is, within the capital amount that you put in towards options, is it because that's been going down, so you're concerned, or is it because you just have so many positions that it's a little difficult to monitor them, but your overall experience has been kind of okay, not great, but kind of okay? Actually, with three questions. The other question is, within the context of the options, are you doing what you've been very comfortable with, or is some of it experimental? Wow, those are three questions. Are you able to answer? Let's go to the first one. Are you having a drawdown in your capital?
Not much actually. It's negligible. So I'm
Okay.
having an okay day. 8 months so far, Basil, capital-wise. The main concern is I'm just losing control of these positions. There's so many. I can't pay attention to detail to each one of them, and then so that was my main concern to downsize.
There was an overarching question that I was going to get to, but I thought I needed to ask these questions first. So the other one is that your issue is that you've got so many positions, it's a little difficult to get to. But my third one is there a position that you've really been good at and that some of the others are actually detracting from it?
Yes, that's correct. I've been lucky with selling options, calls and puts, the straddle strategies, selling puts and selling calls at the same time. It's been working out very, very well.
Okay, hold on.
And I want to narrow my strategy down to it.
Okay, so we've got a break coming up. Let's deal with that as soon as we get back.
Okay.
Hi, folks, we're back. So I want to get back to Reddy. He's calling from New York, and he had a question about, it's really more a statement and a kind of a how do I reconfigure my actions so that I can be a lot more focused. I think that's it. Isn't that correct, Reddy?
Yep, that's exactly
so
right.
I didn't want to interrupt you before, but we were going to a break. Now, what I wanted to say is, without even getting into the details, maybe another day we can actually talk about the details, because my only question really, the overarching question is, how successful are you in a majority of your trades? And you're saying that you've done quite well. And I'm going to say to you, look, why don't you take a moment? Maybe you want to, maybe you don't want to. I normally would just get out of a bunch of positions. I'd especially get out of losing positions, and I'd say, you know what? I want to take from this data. Maybe I'm not very good at this. I should be. I'm kind of a little lazy in that aspect. I should make a spreadsheet of different things. I don't do that. I do it kind of in my mind, which is not the best way to do it. And I'm going to say to you, if you can just write down what particular actions and scale them from the very best to the most mediocre, and then the ones that actually have harmed you, get rid of the ones that have not worked, and come back to the most. Remember, the rule in life, I guess, is 80% and 20%. It's, when you talk to clients, 20% of their clients produce 80% of their profits. It doesn't matter what it is. It's kind of a loose rule, but it's pretty darn good in that it actually nails the predominance of what's good and what's bad. So I'm going to say to you, figure out, don't even get into the nitty-gritties of the actual action itself, only the result, that is the profit. Say to yourself, what has worked really well for me? And not only that, what has worked really well for me in the past 2 months, since we've been in a correction for 2 months? And Dave White in the Den says, call the power law. Dave has this thing called the power law vector. He works very much with it, and absolutely. So what you want is to put your bias on what's really been working. And I'm actually going to say to you, whittle it down to maybe not even a handful of positions. I found that even in my opening call, when we are really good at 3 or 4 positions rather than 7 or 8 or 9, those 3 or 4 really keep me focused and keep my subscribers focused. So I'm going to say to you, see if you can get them down. Don't do it all in one day. Just in the meantime, within the rest of the week, going into the weekend and on Monday, by Monday, your thoughts should be this: I've done X for X number of trades. It's really been very good. Great. It goes into the right side, my good sector. I've done this 3 times and it really is terrible. 2 times it was terrible, or 7 times and 5 times it was terrible. It is done. You're not even going to look at that.
Yep.
Then what I would like you to do is to say, within the context of what's working, because this is when I do my Master Trader series, I always ask my attendees, I say, I'm going to ask you something visually. Are you better at identifying bull phases or bear phases? There are some people that are really good at just identifying an up move very quickly. But when it's a down move, they have to kind of think through it. So then I say, use the technique where I've got like the DOG, which is 1-to-1 short the Dow, and the DIA, which is 1-to-1 long the Dow. Put them one above the other like a mirror image, and you can take one, and one will appeal to you visually because it's what you're used to, and that's the way you can do it. So I'm saying to you, take the ones that are working the best of all and see if you can take money off the table from the ones that are really mediocre to bad, and maybe add a brand new position in the ones that are in the technique that is just working the very best, and then use that. Okay. And then I'm going to say to you, stay on a minimum number of I don't know what the minimum is for you, but let's just say you've got 10 positions. I would cut them down to 4 or 5, and I would say stay with the 4 or 5. Let's say maybe a month is too short, but 6 weeks to 8 weeks, I think in this market, you're going to get a wealth of information, and see if you've now added to your ability on the technique that's been working well. That's number 1. Number 2 is don't overthink. Don't get so carried away with analyzing that it confuses you. If at any point you're confused, step aside and say, whoa, I don't want to be able to say, I can go long, oops, I can go short. It's either long or short, or you're going to have a mix, or you're going to use an option strategy that is biased one way or the other. Don't get too carried away. And let's see how that works. Now, the other thing is, I'm also going to recommend, I don't know, maybe you do it. Do you listen to Think or Swim the hour before mine?
Yes, I do.
The option, okay. So listen to what they're doing, and listen to what really, there might be one person who's something or other just always works out, and then something else he tries doesn't quite work, or she tries doesn't work out. Stick with listen to what they do best, not what they do worst. But when they're confident and it works out, and say, hey, that's a technique I might want to be thinking about to add to my work. But most of all, your work must be your work. In other words, when I do a course, I don't want somebody coming out and saying, is this what Basil would do? They got to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, because that's the technique I learned. It's my technique now. It's nobody else's. So what's working for you, hone your craft to get even better at it. What is not working for you, you can come back to another time. Just get it out of the way and say, hey, don't confuse me. I know what I'm doing well. I'm going to stick with that. And just do that. I don't even want to know the techniques right now. Later on, we can talk about the techniques. But the other thing I'm going to say to you is, it sounds like you don't do naked options. You do strategies. Is that correct?
That's right, Basil. So the strategies that I mostly do is either selling deep out of the money puts or deep out of the money calls at the same time. Yes.
So if you're doing that, and as I say, this is a very good market for doing that, for the stocks that are either very overbought or the stocks that you might consider very oversold. That's a really good strategy. But let me just say to you, categorize what you're doing. So there should be a tabulation. You should be able to give a figure and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. These things are really good. I'm making X amount, whatever it is. This is what I'm not doing well with. I'm done with that. I can't do that right now. I can come back to it, develop that strategy later on, but I have to be comfortable with something. And here's the other thing. If you feel at night when you go to sleep, oh, wow, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's just, anything.
I had those days, yep.
Don't get into that. And I remember one night with my options years ago when I was just starting out, I woke up in a sweat. My wife said to me, what's going on? I didn't want to say, I'm not going in a sweat because I'm losing so much money in my options. And I just said to myself, I'm never going to let that happen to me again. My health is way more important than this. Thank goodness I got out of the positions. I did lose some. I managed to make some of it up quite quickly. I don't want to be that. So just remember, this should be fun. It should be an exercise in creativity and creating profits. I hope that helps you some.
It does, Basil. Thank you for your advice, and I will work step by step, and I'll come back to you soon again.
Please.
So,
thank you very much for calling. And Reddy, you can also.